the tape for this, our main event of the evening. We introduce the champion, Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan. Let's get it on!
Hey guys, welcome to the Strangler podcast. We are here with Tim Elliott. Tim, thank you for coming. It's been awesome to have you in the gym for the last few weeks. We'll dive into all that in a little bit. Let's fly all the way back to the beginning. You wrestled since when?
I started wrestling in about the 5th and 6th grade. I got kind of a late start. I moved in with my father when I was in about the 4th grade, and before that, I don't even ever really remember going to school. I'm not sure that I even went through 1st and 2nd grade. But my dad really wanted a basketball player, so like we tried basketball, we tried baseball, we tried soccer. He just had a thing where like I just couldn't hang out. I had to be doing something. It didn't matter what it was. We just had to be doing something. I wasn't coordinated or athletic enough to do any like team sports, so wrestling was the only thing that stuck really.
Keeping you busy, it's a good thing. Typically keeps you out of trouble. Where were you born?
I was born in Ark City, Kansas.
Ark City, Kansas. And then wrestled where? Did you grow up there or did you move around?
No, I moved from Ark City, Kansas in about the 4th grade, moved in with my father, started wrestling in Hayesville. Hayesville Wrestling Club. We had a ton of studs whenever I was younger. I was the rest match for all the good guys because I started late, so all the good guys would laugh and giggle and rest and beat my ass.
The off round?
Yeah, I think for my first 3 years of wrestling, I didn't win a match, but my father made me stick with it, and it paid off eventually. But also, like I got some of my best friends and lifelong friendships from that. So it was a long road, but the right one.
People tend to realize wrestling and MMA that does that. It's such a brutal sport, and it's someone you can like beat the crap out of your friend all day long, and then you guys leave and go to lunch, or leave and go home, whatever.
And it's such a small world. Like you meet wrestlers from everywhere in the world. It's like you automatically have a connection, and I think just because they know what it's like to go through that.
For sure. So wrestled as pretty young, right? And then into high school. Where'd you wrestle in high school?
Campus High School in Hayesville, Kansas. Was a runner-up as a freshman. Had a great season. Yeah, after not winning hardly any matches, I was a runner-up. But I spent my whole I wrestled year-round after my very first year of wrestling. And in Kansas, like you can only wrestle so many matches, and you can only go to so many camps at certain times. So like I would sneak away and do some maybe a little bit shady camps. I wrestled year-round. I never took any time off. But I had some catching up to do with the guys that were already better than me.
I hate that. There's rules here in Texas. There's like a 45-minute rule. After your match, you can't wrestle for 45 more minutes. So you see tournaments get dragged out. Guys are standing around waiting. And like these kids are in shape, or at least they should be. They could go in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but 45 minutes, that's the same. Like if you can only wrestle, they only allow you to do so many tournaments or so many camps. It's pretty dumb. I try to explain to the parents that the kids that continue to wrestle after wrestling season are the kids that are good next season,
right?
Or they're just going to start next season where they were, at the end of this last season without improving at all and just continue to get beat up. So it's important to consistency, right?
Well, and then you talk about fighters, like there's 2 types of fighters. There's fighters that wrestled and fighters that wish they wrestled. So it's an easy transition. So
that exact same thing is what I tell my kids when they're in high school. There are kids that wrestle, and then there are wrestlers.
Right.
And the wrestlers are the ones that wrestle all year. So, awesome. So, after your freshman year, how'd it go?
So, I took runner-up as a freshman. My sophomore year, I got buried early on, and my father left the tournament. So, then I just went out and lost again, lost on purpose, didn't place as a sophomore. Biggest mistake I ever made in my life. Like I think about it almost every day. It was, I quit. My dad made me feel bad about losing because I wrestled like shit, and rightfully so. And then I quit, and that's that was the only year of state that I didn't place at was my sophomore year. And boy, that eats at me almost every day still. Like you just never forget those things.
Yeah, could have been a 4-time placer, I guess, but at the same time, I'm sure you learned a lot out of that.
For sure, that really helped mold me to where finally as a senior I was able to win a state championship. Should have probably been a 3-timer, but you know how wrestling is. It's some days you're on, some days you're not.
And 1 point.
1 point.
1 point, and the other guy's winning. So you won your senior year?
Senior year, I got a state championship.
Awesome. And that was all in the same place, all in Kansas?
All in Kansas, 2 different high schools, though. I went from campus high school to the South High, which is another Wichita school. I had some I would leave for school during lunch, and we weren't allowed to leave, so I would get in trouble, and they sent a letter home, like an expulsion letter. And my dad, he's like me, he's really Jurassic. When something happens, he's all in. So he came up to the school and he was like, "Oh, what is this?" And they're like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. It's just an expulsion letter. It's just a thing on points, and it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it." And he was like, "It's not a big deal." He's like, "So you're telling me I beat the shit out of my son for no reason?" Which he didn't hit me, but he told him that. And then immediately after they gave me an expulsion letters, we switched schools and I went to a different school and wrestled for them.
Okay, awesome. And then from there, you won state championship and went on to go to college, right? Wrestled in college?
Yeah, I went to a junior college in Parsons, Kansas, Labette Community College, which had a really great coach, Joe Renfro there. As a freshman, I took third. I should have been a champion as a freshman, but I took third. Didn't listen to my coach. Wanted to choose down because I thought I could get away from the guy. He told me neutral. I said down. He said neutral. I said down. I picked down. I got road. I lost by riding time. That kid won a national championship that year.
I think we just had this conversation on the way here. We were talking about this.
Yes.
That's another learning lesson.
Right.
From there, did you continue at that school, or you moved to a different school?
So I did 2 years at the community college, and I transferred to multiple time D2 national championship school, University of Central Oklahoma, UCO, the Broncos, but they have a CH, so it's technically spelled Bronchos, because I guess that's the way it was spelled a long time ago, and they never changed it. So they were national champions the year before I got there, and I All-American twice for them. So I ended up being a 4-time All-American. I took 5th, 1st, 5th, 4th as my 4 All-American seats. I never redshirted or anything. I just wrestled straight through.
Yeah, I knew that school only because Lucas's first wrestling tournament, I think, in college, he wrestled 2 kids from there, beat a kid from there, lost to a kid from there. But someone had gone around, and I'd never heard of the school. Weird, from Texas and whatever, but they're a 15-time national champion team is what they were saying. I was like, oh crap. I was like, okay.
Consecutive,
so clearly, it was consecutive. So clearly they're a legit, legit team. So when did you start, did you venture into MMA at all during that time, or not till after?
So when I was at Labette Community College, we had a guy come from Liverpool, England. I don't know if you remember him, Terry Edom. He fought in the UFC.
Terry's a purple belt under me.
No way.
Yeah, he was under Paul Rimmer, who was Patty's coach. But there was a small split in that gym a while back, and he went to Cabon with Paul. I forget the other guy's name, but it's where Darren Till and them train, and that's where Terry's at now coaching.
So
yes, he was training. He was a purple belt under me.
He's the guy who got me into MMA. He lost to Matt Grice in the UFC.
Yep.
And then he called my wrestling coach, or he called somebody, or maybe even Matt Grice, and said, "Hey, I want to learn how to wrestle. Where do I go?" So he came from Liverpool, England, and wrestled our full season. Did everything. Did wrestle-offs. He wasn't in school. He did every single wrestling practice. Wrestled a full season with us, and
I did not know that.
Yeah, I remember specifically, and he's the guy who got me into fighting, was him 100%. But I remember specifically him arm-barring one of my friends, and my friend got all upset and was like, "Oh man," he's like, "You don't have to do it so hard." And Terry goes, "I do. Otherwise, it won't be right." And I was like, "Oh shit." So, yeah, man, this guy came to get out of his comfort zone from a different country to wrestle with a bunch of young college kids. Stayed in our dorms. It's crazy. Small world.
That's
the MMA
wild.
world is so small.
Wild.
But yeah, so Terry Edom was the guy who.
Could you understand him when he spoke?
He sounds a bit like a pikey, but I'm a little bit of a mush mouth myself, so I'm good at picking up things.
Awesome. Yeah, that's crazy. I did not know he came here. Quick question, since you brought up Matt Grice, you know him well?
Yes.
People tell me that he is one of the greatest wrestlers that ever came out of Oklahoma that didn't get to wrestle. Correct? Or
that is what I hear. I hear that a lot. And I mean
Oklahoma's Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So when I heard that, I was like, wow, really? So
he just went into fighting, I guess. He had neck issues, so he didn't make it in college.
He had a real bad car accident twice, I believe, once in high school, once in college.
Well, and then now he can hardly talk and stuff. Even after the UFC, I mean, him and Dennis Bermudez fought in the UFC, and it was one of the best fights I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Yeah.
I'll go back and watch that fight sometimes, but yeah, so crazy. Like, Matt Grice beat Terry Edom on wrestling, and this guy comes from England, just wrestle with our program.
Yeah, that's wild. Awesome. So obviously that is what got you in, basically.
That's what I started. I did some jiu-jitsu, and then I took an amateur fight, which wasn't really an amateur fight. It was a pro fight.
Okay.
They paid me, but for some reason it's on my amateur record. So I'm 1-0 as an amateur, and that was while I was at Labette Community College with Matt Grice, with no real aspirations of being a fighter at that time.
Okay. So after your college is done, what brought you to MMA? As a lot of people know, at the end of college for a wrestler, it's like, what do I do, right? And MMA is I can wrestle in MMA and I can make some money, so there's the one place I can kind of make money with wrestling.
Yeah, well, and at the time, there was no flyweight division, so there was no money really to be made for me. But when I went to UCO, I had Cole Province, who was a WEC guy, and Jared Hess, who won the Bellator tournament. Those guys were in the gym practicing MMA every day, so I stuck around. I have 9 years of college. I've stayed in college for 9 years, and I'm not a doctor. I have 2 degrees, and then after I graduated, the day I actually was supposed to walk for graduation, I fought Jens Pulver in the RFA. So, but before that, like before I ever graduated, I did several years of student assisting. I just hung around the team. They paid for my school, so like I had no goals of anything except for to stay in college as long as I could and hang out with the wrestlers, like because I fit in there and it was free. So the fighting for money didn't really come around till a lot longer after that. And I started my pro career at 0 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. So like even my dad and all my coaches were like, "Hey man, it's time to hang it up." And it was I took the long road for sure.
You're like, hold on, I'm going to the UFC.
Yeah, just give me a few more.
So, all right, 0-3. 0-3. Did the draw come in between those 0-3, or did you go 0-3 and then a draw?
I think I went 0-2, a draw, and then another loss.
All right, and you were hell bent on continuing.
Well, I was gonna quit, and I had a friend that was like, "Man, you're pretty good at this," and he had a business, and he was like, "I'm gonna help you out." So he helped me pay for my rent, and so I could stay in school and wrestle and keep fighting. So I had somebody support me financially through that to where I didn't have to, because it was either going to be school or get a job. I couldn't do both. Right. And especially not if I wasn't making any money fighting. So I just lucked into being around fighters, people that love fighting, being around wrestlers, people that love wrestling. Like those guys helped me out, and part of it was I was helping the school out and doing the student assisting. So I felt like I was getting helped out just by helping them.
When you started fighting early on, were you fighting before you started training? Were you lacking skills obviously at the beginning, and is that why you were losing?
Yeah.
Were you getting submitted? Were you getting knocked out? What was happening?
Well, it was just us wrestlers doing it, and we didn't have a coach. And I was getting submitted. Really, what it would be, I would take guys down and beat their ass, and I would get caught in a triangle.
Got it.
And then the draw that I had was one of the Spoon brothers. There's Jared and Jeremy Spoon.
Uh-huh.
They're Oklahoma boys, good fighters. They're in Bellator, or were in Bellator for a long time. But that was the first fight where I was like, I really had a real fight, and I was like, oh, maybe I can do this. And then I had a draw, so I was like, shit, I'm 0 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. And I finally thought like I was turning a corner there. So it took a long road, but again, I'd lost so much in wrestling. I'd been beat up so bad in wrestling, it wasn't an issue for me to go out there and lose. It sucked, and I wasn't making any money, so it didn't really matter. I didn't want to be the guy with like no wins and 5 losses.
Were you enjoying fighting?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, because I was never that great of a wrestler. I was a good fighter that could win wrestling matches by fighting.
You were a national champion.
Well, but I was fighting those guys. Like, I would go right out and whack a dude, and then they would get upset and whack me back, and then I would get a penalty point. Like I would just frustrate really, really. I mean, the guy that when I won a national title against Ray Stevens, he was a 3-timer. He won it the year before me at 33s, came down to 25, lost to me, and then won it 2 more times for Lindenwood. So he's a 3-time national champion and second place to me. He was a million times better wrestler than me, but I wasn't wrestling, I was fighting. So I thought the transition was going to be easy until I came in and started losing.
Okay, but yeah. So you're a pretty good wrestler.
I mean, I can wrestle.
Kendall Cross lost to Terry Brands, I want to say 3 or 4 times. Met him for the best of 3 to make it to the Olympic team. He won. Terry Brands may or may not have been a better wrestler. Kendall Cross, Olympic gold medalist. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
on your day, you won.
and I can have a good day.
Yeah. Good. Okay. That's good to know.
Sometimes.
So where's the first real MMA gym you started training at?
So the crazy thing is I thought being in Oklahoma and a wrestler and an MMA fighter that Oklahoma was going to be where it's at for MMA.
Right.
Turns out it wasn't really the case.
It's still not.
No.
There's very few gyms for the amount of wrestling that comes out of Oklahoma. There are very few gyms that produce
It's
good
unbelievable.
fighters out of Oklahoma.
It's really unbelievable.
I mean, even everybody at Oklahoma State that decides to fight, they all go out to AKA and train out there in California.
Well, even Matt Grice before, like he was training somewhere else. Now he has a gym there, but again,
Yeah.
I think it's just they have students. They're not producing fighters,
Right.
which is fine. I mean, that's not. But I really thought like I was going to have a step above everybody else because I was in Oklahoma, and that just really wasn't the case. The very first time I went to train at a real gym, I was bouncing around, but I came to Kansas City. Jason High and LC Davis opened up an MMA gym called High Davis MMA, and it was an American Top Team like
Affiliate?
affiliate.
Okay.
Yeah, so I knew those guys. They were wrestlers. I thought it was going to be a really good fit, and then it just wasn't. I didn't really fit in there. I had kind of a weird style, and I didn't have a great record, so it wasn't like people were, they knew that I was good and had some wrestling background, but nobody was bringing me in and paying me because I was, such a
Right.
great athlete or anything.
From there, where'd you go?
So I trained there for probably 4 days. I paid.
It was a very brief time.
Yeah. I trained there for like 4 days, paid for a year membership. And I kept having there like, hey man, you just got to be more traditional and do this. And, it wasn't anything negative, but I felt like rather than them trying to teach me stuff, like adding on to what I was doing, I felt like they were trying to like undo any of the things that I had, which, maybe a really good coach could do that. But at the time, like I was still green and MMA was green really. And I don't know, it wasn't working. Like they would do kickboxing sparring and I was sparring a kickboxer and he kicked me in my head. So I took him down and they're like, oh no, you can't do that. We're kickboxing sparring. So I was like, yeah, no problem. And then he kicked me in my head again. So I took him down. And, after like the 5th time he kicked me in my head and I took him down and they told me I couldn't do that. I was like, look, man, I'm not going to just stand here and let this
Right.
guy kick me in the head.
That's a dumb game plan.
Right. So I was kind of frustrated with the gym. Not anything that they did. It was just more me personally. I didn't know what I needed, but I know that wasn't what I needed.
Right.
So I went to James Krause's gym. It wasn't his gym at the time. It was Brian Davison. He was a coach, Brian Davison. And I think the name was Grindhouse at the time. And the very first time I hit pads with him, Brian Davison was like, hey, man, if you're going to keep your hands down low and you're going to keep your chin sticking out, like you also need to do this, this, and this. Otherwise, you're going to get knocked the fuck out. And then once I heard that, I was like, oh, shit, this is the place for me. I never went back to the other gym. I stayed at Grindhouse.
So right away they started building off of what you were going to do
Immediately.
instead of changing it.
Yeah, they liked it. He was like, oh, that's cool. Like, but if you're going to do that, that's when the slipping started coming in and other things. And I was like, oh, man, this is what I want. I don't want somebody to tell me what I'm doing isn't right. I want somebody to help me make what I'm doing right. And Brian Davison did that at Grindhouse. And that's where I met James Krause for the first time. That was before 2012. Nobody in Kansas City was in the UFC except for Rob Kimmons, the Rosedale Reaper, was in the UFC at the time, but he wasn't from our gym. But nobody else from Kansas City was in the UFC. Not me, not James, not Zach Cummings. So that's kind of where I got my start in with James and the Glory guys.
From there, did you go from there to Vegas?
So I trained at Grindhouse with James. It was just me, James, Zach Cummings, Brian Davidson, like a bunch of big guys and me, like
Right.
little old me. But it was great because I was going with these big guys and holding my own, I guess, as much as I could. But the gym started getting bigger and started getting more students, started getting more fighters. And then James took over the gym. We moved buildings. It became Glory MMA and Fitness. Actually, it still maybe was Grindhouse for a while, but James was coaching. I made it to the UFC. I got in a little bit early. My first fight in the UFC was John Dodson. I took it on short notice. Had an amazing fight. I fought way better than what I was capable of fighting. And then James got in the UFC, and then Zach Cummings got in the UFC, and it looked like our team was really, really taking off. And then the gym kind of took a turn. James was coaching, but he wasn't like, when I asked him his goals as a coach, it wasn't, hey, I want to coach a world champion. It was, I'm going to get some kids in here. I'm going to start making money with the fitness classes. And he was opening up cell phone stores and Metro PCS stores and stuff. So at the time, I just felt like I needed more. And, even before that, the UFC cut me after losing, and I fought in Titan for 3 times. And when I was cut from the UFC, I opened up with my fighting. I wasn't worried about getting fired anymore. I wasn't worried about anything except for having fun and winning. So I had 3 fights in Titan.
How many fights did you get in your first stint in the UFC? A bunch, or just right off the bat?
Until I lost 3 in a row, okay. And then they cut me. And then, but Sean Shelby told me, he's like, man, you fight like that and you lose 100 times. He's like, you'll always have a job here. And then I got fired. But then I went and did
Thanks, Sean.
The Ultimate Fighter. They brought in a bunch of champions, a bunch of young guys who were world champions, and and then a guy, me, who they just fired. So like worst.
So you were on the season. Everyone was a champion, correct?
Season 24 was all champions.
That's awesome.
And I just lucked into winning a Titan championship right before that. So like.
And on paper, I know what you're going to do here, but on paper, that may have been the tough show ever.
For sure.
Yeah, like on paper, everyone that was in there was, to win that season, you're going to be the baddest dude.
Right. And if you're a champion for a different country in that weight class, you would come but like the UFC just fired me. The last person in the world they wanted to win the show with a bunch of young champions was the old guy that they had already fired once.
Right.
So like lucked into winning the Ultimate Fighter, fought for a UFC world title, fought Demetrius Johnson for 5 rounds, I had a good hard fight, but my fight IQ was just not there. I didn't try to stop any takedowns. I just kept pulling guillotines. I didn't have a smart fight, and ended up not winning a world title, but had a decent fight.
So that was the fight that really opened my eyes to you. I knew who you were before that, and I'd seen your fights here and there, but that fight, I told people when it was going to happen, this is going to be a good fight. This DJ's not going to run this guy over. I was like, this is going to be a good fight, and sure enough. There was a point in time you were mounted on him. Yeah,
I had him in a Dars. But again, it was one of those things. Like I wasn't really prepared. My fight IQ wasn't really there. My team and my coaches were there, but we were just a bunch of fighters trying to make it. We didn't really have a set. At this time, James wasn't just a coach. He was also still fighting in the UFC, and it was me, James, and Zach Cummings, and Austin Ford. Like Austin was our only coach, and he was a striking coach. And he was green at the time too. So it wasn't, we just weren't really prepared. I definitely wasn't really prepared. And then after that, I had a talk with James, and he told me his goals as a coach, and things started to change, which was fine. I just needed something different. So I packed my shit and I moved to Las Vegas to train with Robert Follis, because when I called him, he was one of the coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. But when I called him afterwards, I was like, hey man, I'm just curious, like, what are your goals as an MMA coach? And he looked at me and he said, Tim, all I want to do is coach a world champion. And I think that could be you. So as soon as he said that, I packed my bags and I moved out, and I started staying with him and moved to Vegas.
How long were you out there?
God, I'm so bad with time.
Fight-wise, a lot of fights or no?
Yeah. I'm not really sure, but I was 5 years. I stayed in Vegas for 4 or 5 years. So
quite a while.
Fair amount of time. Like even after he killed himself, I still stuck around. But I should have left, right after Follis passed away, I should have left and went back to James Krause right away. But, my ego was, it was hard for me to go back, and it was hard for me to leave after, my coach killed himself. And I had some coaches there that, not only coaches, friends that stepped up and helped me out of a bad situation. So I felt obligated to stick around and stay in Vegas for a little bit. And
so since you brought that up, let's go ahead and back up just a tad, and let's start with the fight. We'll just go to that fight that you were getting ready for. Who was it? Where was it?
Pietro Menga was the guy. He was a new guy in the UFC, a British guy, threatening me on the internet and stuff, which was cool because I never really had that. was really excited. The guy was a new guy, a big guy, supposed to be really good. And, I called James, wanted to get James back involved so I could have, another coach and a friend, because James and I always stayed close even after I left. And I paid, before that fight, I paid Follis. I switched his ticket around because he was going to corner Brian Caraway. So I switched his ticket so he could stay and corner Brian Caraway. Well, Brian Caraway had health issues. So Follis called me, and I paid to switch his ticket back to where he would fly out on a Tuesday. James and I are sitting in Canada waiting. Follis never shows up. So, I'm pretty nonchalant. If you don't show up somewhere, I'm like, well, coach just had something come up. That's the kind of guy I am. And James was like, bro, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen to me? And I was like, oh man, I don't know, something bad happened to your kid. And James goes, guess what? If something bad happened to my kid, I would fucking call you right away. You would know if I'm not going to be there. There's no excuse for him not being here. Something is wrong. So we start calling people in Vegas, trying to figure out like, hey man, where's Robert at? Everybody was under the assumption that they hadn't seen him because he was with me in Canada. Come to find out, the day of weigh-ins, Joe Benavidez's wife walks into after weigh-ins. I make weight. My opponent doesn't even show up to weigh-ins. So I'm not even getting my show money at the time. I'm all upset. Joe Benavidez's wife comes in, tells me that Robert Follis was found dead in the mountains at my fight. So everybody's just shocked about that. And
Megan O'Leary?
Megan O'Leary.
She's the one that came in to tell you?
Yep, because she was close with Follis as well. It's like I literally holding Megan O'Leary and crying in her arms and just pretty upset about, the coach, obviously, but then also my guy not showing up, not making weight, and then the UFC is not giving me my show money, which is, really bothering me because I already made weight. I did that part. Luckily, the UFC works with me, and James Krause has a good relationship with those guys at the time. So we got me my show money, and, so that helped a little bit.
So that fight never took place?
Fight never took place.
Okay.
The messed up thing is that was right when they did the IV ban. And the guy, they were like, oh man, he couldn't get on the scale because he was having some medical issues. He's at the hospital now. He was only 6 pounds over. You can still fight him if you want. But he's like posting a picture of him laying there getting an IV. And I never saw him step on the scale, so I didn't know that he was 6 pounds over. Right. So I said no. And when I said no, they were like, well, then you're not going to get your show money. So then I was, being a little asshole that I am, I was motherfucking the UFC and talking shit to Mick Maynard and shit. And James was like, bro, you can't do that. Like, these are your bosses. Like, you're going to have to go talk to them like a man and, and tell them what you want. And, of course, James was right. And I did that, and it helped my relationship with all those guys doing that. Like, they don't really know or aren't going to do anything unless you ask them. And if you don't ask them, you can't really be a bitch about it and expect them to do something that you didn't ask for. So that was a learning experience for me as well, on how to deal with the UFC and those guys. And it paid off in the long run.
All right, so that hit hard.
I was trying not to cry.
When that after that took place, you were living with Robert, correct?
Yep, I was living at his house.
So you had to go back to Vegas or back to there and get your, I think you told me before, your car or something. It was basically not a lot.
It was nothing. I didn't even take my kid with me because I was just staying at his house, just because at that time I was like, man, I'm going to go down here, train with this coach, and I'm going to be the fucking world champion. That was the goal. And then when he passed away, I just moved to Vegas. So then I brought my kid and everything, and then I got into a comfort zone. I had good coaches and stuff still and a good team, but trying to be a world champion kind of changed at that point for me.
Right. So where did you stayed in Vegas for a little while. Where did you stay? I
stayed in Vegas. I got lucky after Follis passed away, and I got my show money. 2 weeks later, the UFC gave me another fight, like a sympathy fight. I won. I made weight. I won. So I got all my money. And then afterwards, I cried because Follis passed away.
Sure.
So then the UFC gave me a $50,000 bonus. So for the first time in my whole life, I had some money. Yeah, I've been poor my whole life. Never had anything of any kind of value, which ended up being a problem for me because my coach killed himself, and now I have $300,000 in my bank account. So I was living at the Palms, in the Palms. I was living there. I was wrecking the hotel rooms. I was drinking. I was doing drugs. I was staying at the strip club all night. Like, things were, I went from thinking I was going to be a world champion to drinking myself to death within like a short amount of time. And, that's luckily that's where I met my wife, Gina Mazzani. She kind of saved me from a bad spot. And my coaches, Casey Halstead and Eddie Baraka, more so than coaches, they helped me as a friend, like let me know like everything was going to be fine, and had people that cared about me. And and then when Gina got into my life, she was like, look, motherfucker, if you want to stay with me, you can't be doing this shit. So I kind of got a second chance there with that and all those guys.
Did you meet her at the gym?
At the gym at Extreme Couture. The very first time we met, I beat her ass sparring and she cried, and I was like, oh, what a fucking pussy. And then I think the 5th round she came back and she's like, you want to go again? And I was like, yeah. So I held her down and rubbed her face in the mat. Like, no mercy. I didn't care about her or anything. Didn't even know her. And then that was when Falls was still alive. And then after Falls passed, she slid into my DMs and was like, hey, just want to let you know like everything's going to be okay if you ever want to talk. And I was like, yeah, I want you to come up to the Palomino. It's a grandfathered in strip club, fully nude. They serve alcohol there, and they're MMA fans. There's a full cage and MMA gym in the back. So at the time, I don't even know if I had left the Palomino for like 6 days. I for sure hadn't showered in any of that time, and I probably hadn't slept either. And so Gina like calls me in the parking lot. She's like, I think I'm in the wrong place, because she thought I said the Palazzo, which is like a nice place in Vegas.
Right.
And I was like, oh no, you're in the right place. So she comes up to the strip club, and Robert Follis always had a quote that he would say, consistency over time equals results. So we were sitting at the meat rack with, checking out some buttholes of the girls in the strip club. And she draws this little tattoo, a C over T equals R. She draws it at the meat rack at the strip club. We leave there, go get tattoos that night. And that was the very first night we hung out. And I told her that I loved her. And
you both got the same one?
We both got the same tattoo. Told her that I loved her, and we've been together ever since and just got married.
Wild. That's awesome.
That's my Vegas story.
So she got you cleaned up pretty much?
Yes, she did. 100%. Well, not about 100%, but yes.
Yeah. And then from that point, did you fight it all again in Vegas before you went back to Kansas City?
I did. I had I fought Askar Askarov. I'm not sure. I can't remember between De La Rosa and Askar, but I had several fights. And I wasn't, my fight IQ just wasn't there. I wasn't like, there was no systems. Like I was okay from certain positions, but like I didn't have a system from like, what happens if I get taken down? What happens if this guy takes my back? And, nobody's fault but my own. I wasn't getting it there. I was trying to convince Gina that James Krause was the guy that we needed to be there. Like, all I got to do is just get you down there for one fight. And, sure enough, she came. It wasn't an easy transition to get her. She loved Vegas. Her team was there. Her friends were there. Her brother lived there. So, like, me just being a guy who we had, a crazy few years together, like wild few years, try to get her to leave her comfort zone to go stay in Kansas City. That was a tough thing to get her to do.
Right.
But was the best thing that ever happened to us as far as career-wise go.
She's pretty tight with her brother too, right?
Very tight.
He fights or did fight?
Yeah. He was the EFC champion in South Africa.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, they all moved there because her brother was gonna be the UFC fighter. Gina just happened to be 3-0 and lucked into the UFC. So, or unlucked into the UFC. She got in way too early, and
right.
It was kind of I think a bit of a culture shock, because everybody was expecting her brother to be the UFC fighter, and then now Gina's fighting in the UFC. But we just didn't have the coaches to really put together a game plan or build her as much as what she needed to be, because she's a lot of work. She's really good, but she's a lot of work, and not every coach is willing to put that much work into somebody, especially if you put a bunch of work into somebody and then they still don't succeed.
Right.
Like, that's really, really hard, and that's why I don't coach. I can't put everything I have into somebody and see them lose. Like, especially Gina, she puts everything into her fight camps. Like, my camps are, but she puts everything, does everything right. So to see her do all that and still lose was heartbreaking.
It can happen. It's a tough sport. We were talking about on the way here. I was like, you can do everything right, but so can the other guy, right? The other guy might be, and unfortunately, there's guys like John Jones who aren't even doing everything right, and they're still going to beat you.
Yep.
It happens.
Yeah, some guys are just better than you. But
yeah,
and sometimes you just have a bad day. But I'm a little bit easier going, I feel like, which was a problem. That's why I stayed in Vegas so long. Gina needed more work, and I knew that James was willing to put that work in and didn't care. Didn't care if he put everything he had into it and they still lost. Or, like he's been around it. He knows that's just how it goes. And he's not scared to say things on the stool that somebody might be like, oh man, that could get you in trouble or that could get you hurt. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. He's going to say what he thinks. And I love that. Like, I need somebody to tell me what to do, when to do it, like, and be confident in it. Not like, if I come in between rounds and you ask me how I'm doing, like, that's a problem. I need you to tell me how I'm doing, what I'm doing. And James doesn't have no problem doing that. And Gina needed that. And, she actually got some wins. She still never fought to her real potential, I don't think. And
yeah. I agree with that, and I don't even know her that well.
Right.
For sure. After watching her train and stuff, you can see, some people are better in the room.
She is. She's a killer. And I'm the opposite. Like, I don't understand how, because, like, I'm only going to go so hard in practice because it's fucking practice. Like, I don't want to get hurt. I don't have anything to prove. But Gina will thrash in practice, beat guys, and then, just won't come together for her in a fight. But I think it's something on the inside. Like, there's nobody watching you in the practice. She knows everybody in there. She knows nobody's going to judge her. But then you get out in front of all those people and everything changes.
So you guys you were back in Kansas City. You got her to go out there. Your career's doing, pretty well, right? I mean,
yeah, I usually win one, lose two, win two, lose one. It's never, I haven't put together like a real streak or anything. But to be fair, like, we changed everything. In the Demetrius Johnson fight, he took me down a bunch of times, but in reality, he didn't take me down. He shot and I pulled guillotine. Like, now Tagir shoots, like, I'm not accepting being on my back to pull a guillotine, because you're not going to guillotine the really good guy. I mean, you might catch him, but more than likely
you're losing until you win if you're on your back.
And I would much rather have people jumping on a guillotine for me and me being on top. So, it all came with fight IQ, and James grew as a coach and got older and evolved, and we developed systems, and I think terminology was a big thing too. Is like, we would have these things that we did, but we didn't know what to call it. So it's hard to coach that to somebody. Well, James put names to everything. So that made it a lot easier for my dumb brain to pick up on, like, he don't have to coach me through it. He can just say something and I'll know what it is.
Yeah, we liked that when we went out there. It was, I was like, okay, all right, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And it does. So we'll jump to, I guess, how me and you met was same thing. James Krause, we're in a gym where Lucas was, pretty far ahead of everybody else in the
top dog
in the division or in the room, and we needed better bodies. I had a couple different people in mind, but I figure, I'd spoken to James once, and he had said, "Yeah, man, I your son does this well and does that well," and started telling me all about. I'm like, wait. I was like, why do you know that? And he's like, oh, I watch all his fights. And I'm thinking, were you coaching somebody to fight him? And he's like, no, I watch a lot of fights. And I was like, okay. And I told Luke, I said, well, just so we don't ever fight somebody from there, that's where we're going to go. Let's go there. So we went up there. You were there. Got to see you and Moreno that first week we were there. We just went up there for 1 week the first time to try it out. And then by the time we got back, you had tore your knee.
Yeah, and I tore it with Brandon. It was great because having a world champion in the gym elevated everybody. And I try to be the hardest drilling guy in the gym anyway, but Brandon does too. So when him and I were drilling, like, we were just elevating each other. And then I re-injured my knee. Luckily, it was with Brandon Moreno, the world champion. So the UFC, helped me out right away. No issues. I didn't have to say anything. They took care of me because I had a good training partner in Brandon, and he's the champion of the world. So I lucked into that.
Yeah, it was great to see when we went up there. We're always early. We're always, usually the first guys in the room. And every single day we would show up like 5 minutes earlier. So it'd be like 25 minutes early, 30 minutes early, 30 minutes early. You, Brandon, and Gage were always there early, and sometimes James Gallagher. But it was like, I was like, look, at the best guys in the room are here 30 minutes early. They're already sweating long before the class starts, and it was awesome to see. Fantastic group of guys up there. And, yeah.
Well, the thing is like, at first everybody went there because James was such a good coach. And then towards the end, like you said, like what was proprietary about the room was the guys.
Yeah, the room.
It was so the room was there was so many good guys, and like I took for granted and I miss a little bit because the room was just a room full of MMA fighters, and forever that's what I wanted out of a gym. Just
Right.
a room full of MMA fighters, not a dojo, not a fitness gym, not kids classes, and like we were spoiled with that because it was just MMA all the time. But then like we're also the gym I felt like was missing something, and like I didn't really recognize that until I got here. I got here and I see like the kids classes, the wrestling. There's 4 different buildings in here. Every one is full with something different, and like it's not a dojo and it's not a fitness gym. It's an MMA gym, but the kids are gonna in 10 years you're gonna have a whole slew of guys. You're not gonna have enough space, and like I'm a guy who never ever could see myself coaching, never wanted to coach, and I think part of it was because like there was no coaching to really be done at our gym except for with MMA fighters, and I didn't necessarily want to deal with that. But like seeing what you guys are doing here is totally different, and like I could definitely coach, and be part of that. Like it's a little bit different feel, and it's not bad. It's a good thing. It's nice to want to be back in the gym a little bit, because at Glory toward the end the room was tough. I'd go in there, chop wood, carry water, and then get the fuck out.
Right.
Like.
Yeah, when we went there, we were looking for – I didn't even know how good of a coach James was or anybody was. We were looking for a room full of good guys. He had, probably 15 guys in or above or below Luke's weight class. So I was like, that's the room. Let's go. So we went there, got to find out James is, he's a great coach and taught well. I got to sit on the sidelines with Austin because Austin had a stomach surgery, an umbilical hernia surgery. So I got to listen to him a lot, and I was vibing with him. Then James would let him come in a little bit and teach class. That guy, I feel like, was held back a lot there. Now that I've got him here, it's mind-blowing, getting to watch him coach. And so during that time, I don't know if Gina told you, when you weren't there and I was teaching, at one point, I think the very first day I taught, she's in tears.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. And so it comes to find out, I sound a lot like Robert Follis. And I look a lot like Robert Follis. And going back however many years it's been, I had someone call me before and ask me if I was cornering somebody in the UFC right now. And I said no. And Robert was like on the hands on the apron of the ring, so you couldn't see that he's tall.
Right.
And he's coaching. And I was like, shit, that does look like me. His ears are big, scratchy voice. And I was like, wow, that's weird.
Really carries.
Yeah. So she told me that, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And she goes, no. She goes, honestly, she was very peaceful. It's very relaxing. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I just was like, so are you good? Can I continue?
Yeah.
But it was a crazy feeling, especially, to not hear it from somebody that just knew him, but somebody that was, that had been coached by him, like
right.
you and her. And so that's kind of where me and you started to I was talking to her about you a lot. I gave her a private, I think, right before I came back down here. We worked on some stuff, and then, I don't know what you want to go into on how you ended up here, but
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I moved to Vegas to be coached and to try to be a world champion. I moved back to Kansas City to be coached and try to be a world champion. I love my team at Glory. I love James. He's one of my best friends. He's helped me a lot, finances, just becoming the person that I am. So, obviously whenever we were forced, the gym got shut down. So we're forced somewhere. We still got our team. We got Marathon MMA with Trey is running it. And then Zach Cummings has his version of Glory. So there's gyms to go there. I didn't know exactly what to do. And so I did what I always did. I asked James, what do I need to do? Even though like he's going through it, I know the last thing in the world with all the things that he's going on, the last thing he wants to do is, tell me what I need to do with my life.
Right.
But he told me straight up, he said, you need to be with Chris out in Texas. So I packed my shit up and here I am. Like it was an easy transition and an easy, I could have went to Denver, but I don't know. don't want to say I'm a special case. I'm an old dog. I don't want to go and try to compete for a spot on the team.
Sure.
And here, like, I get a spot automatically because I get to be Luke's drilling partner.
Right.
So, like, I have no problem jumping into that second slot, and everybody doing everything for Luke is good for me because I'll get the runoff. Like, I don't mind. I don't need it to be all about me. I love that it's all about Luke, and I just get to be the training partner of the guy that it's all about. That's enough for me. But in Denver, there's 10 of those guys. You know what I mean? And
right.
And I love Mark Montoya and those guys, and some of my Glory guys are out there, but it's just I need a place where I know that I'm going to be able to go and move. I can't be a camp guy. I can't just go do 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. I'm too much of a fuck off. I'll fuck around if there's room to fuck around. And being here, there's not. Like, you're getting up in the morning. There's ice. We do the ice bath, or I do my bike for 20 minutes. I do the ice bath. I do the sauna. I eat my breakfast. I come to practice. Everything is laid out. There's no room for anything else, so It's easy just to do all the right things. And I couldn't go there and I didn't expect that here, but I couldn't go to Denver and expect that. And I definitely wasn't expecting it here, but it took me 2 days here before I was like, this is it. Like, this is where I need to be.
I just feel like anybody, I've been fortunate, obviously, to have Lucas and have Lucas still living at my house. That's why I basically let him have the upstairs, but it allows the camps to be run so smoothly, and his absorption of my coaching, his being able to listen to coaching and learn fast. I just feel like if I could get anybody else that really, really wanted it and get him on this path, man, I'm going to take him to the top with him. You could do the same thing if you're not a lot of people have it all laid out for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And some people need some adversity, and he did, and that's why we went to Glory in the first place. I wanted a room where he got that adversity instead of in a fight.
Right.
Because they'd been going through his guys pretty easy, and I was like, you need to get beat up a little bit, so let's go there. But as far as everything else being easy, so you don't have a lot of excess, a lot of slack, everything's kind of a structure, and we get up and do the same thing. Like you said, it's a very, very solid routine, and it doesn't allow for any fuck around.
Well, when I'm in Kansas City and I get up and drink whiskey and coffee every morning, I don't feel like a dirtbag, but nobody else is doing anything. I'm the only one awake. It's just me by myself at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Here I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. People are awake, exercising, walking.
Yeah.
So, like, I would feel like a piece of shit if I woke up and was drinking, you know what I mean? Like, it's just something I've never really had before. I feel like I'm in wrestling camp again. Like, I did 28-day camp in Boston with Carl Adams and Ken Cherto when I was, I sucked. I was a terrible wrestler. And I was like, why is my dad wasting all this money to send me here? But, like, I got better so fast because everything was laid out. I didn't have to think about anything or worry about anything. It's just do what everybody else is doing, and I'm going to get better just by doing it. Like, even if you don't try your hardest, you're good.
Yeah.
Residually, you're going to get better.
So you and Luke started training together, and I don't know what it take, a day, 2 days. All of a sudden, you guys are looking like you're going 100%, but just like flow so well together. It's been, super exciting for me. I don't know, probably for you as well.
That was the hardest thing about me leaving Glory was I had, Alan, Olivis, and several of these other little guys where I could put 4-ounce MMA gloves on, no shin guards, and completely fight sparring and have people think that we're mad at each other and neither one of us be hurt, fight for 15 minutes. Lucas and I, the first couple of days, I felt like we were drilling really hard and I felt like we were both getting something out of it. But I think on the third day, I was like, yo, we had some real chemistry. And but it took me years to build that with other guys.
Right. Yeah.
I was 3 days here.
Crazy to watch. I'm watching it and looking at Austin. I'm like, dude, and Lucas, I know Luke's enjoying it. He's not had that pace ever. And that pace is what I've kind of tried to push on everybody. And then when I brought him up to Glory, he got to see it firsthand. The whole room was like that. And I was like, there's 50 guys on the mat every day, and they're all training like that or at that pace. The majority of them, and some just train with their girlfriends, but for the most part, everyone is training like that. So it's been awesome with you down here. And then, like I said, I feel like I got a steal getting Austin coming down here, and now Austin gets to kind of branch out, open up, and do his thing by himself, down here and run the program, the striking part of it. And it kind of blends everything in very nicely.
Which that's so great for me too, because whenever I first got into the UFC, I was Glory's first guy in the UFC, and James was trying to get in the UFC, and Zach Cummings and Austin was coaching us, and he was so open and free, and a lot of it was like, I was like, that's before I really had a style. I was like, oh, this is kind of silly. But then when I did it, I was like, oh shit. I was like, this is for me, and like this is for James. So like really, Austin paved the way for me, James, and Zach to get. Really, he was the guy that was our coach. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he didn't act like he knew it all then. He still doesn't, but he was a little bit more reserved because he didn't want to overdo something, but he was having fun and really enjoying himself. And now he knows a lot more, and he's really having fun. He's really enjoying himself, and he's seeing guys. Like, when you see the good guys eating the shit up, it's easy for the guys who aren't as good to eat it up. But, like, even the guys who don't know anything, when I didn't know anything and I saw it, some of it I thought was silly. And, like, boy, I was just stupid. And, like, you could see these young guys here, the guys that aren't that haven't been around for a long time, doesn't matter. They see anything Austin says, they're milking it right up.
Eating it all up,
man,
for sure.
Quick.
You said you feel like he's different down here?
100%.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him like this from when we very first started, and like everything was just fun. It was like we didn't know if anybody was going to make it in the UFC. Like, but he's opened up here and found his own thing, and I've never seen that. And he's a guy, like, he's a super dad. Like, he puts pretty much everything he has into his kids. So the fact that he can even be here and be away from his kid, like, is making it easier for me to be here and be away from my kid, because I know it's not easy for him. And I mean, sometimes you just got to do what makes you happy, and got to go where the money is, and got to go where the people are. And man, it's an easy transition with him being here for me to come here. It made it a ton easier.
So, you've got 3 fights left on your contract?
3 fights.
And what's your plan? What's your goals?
You know, if in a perfect world, I would fight 3 fights and win. That would leave me at 4 in a row. And then, I say I would like to retire at that point and then go to bare knuckles so I could have some, because I don't feel like I got the need. Like, don't get me wrong, I feel like if I won those 3 fights, there's a possibility that I could fight for a world title. And I'm not saying that I couldn't win a world title, but my dreams of that have kind of gotten less and less, and more about trying to make some money now that I'm actually making a little bit of money in the UFC. So if I could win 3 fights in a row, that would give me 4. Leave there, negotiate a bare knuckle contract, and fight a few guys in bare knuckle, then I feel like that could be it for me.
I probably won't let you leave here after that. Probably have you coaching something here.
Hopefully.
And then, so I don't want to step on anyone's toes. What are the chances of coaching Gina here? Of me coaching Gina here?
The thing is, I think it would be just like the James thing. She's hard to convince.
She needs to be here to see it.
Well, yeah, she it's like I could tell her there's a bunch of gold there, but you know, until she comes and picks up a few nuggets, she's not really going to know.
Right.
And that's how that's how it should be. Like, of course, I'm going to say, you know, like, I'm looking for a spot. Like, she loves her home. She loves her friends in Kansas City.
Sure.
I'm different. When something bad happens, I'm drastic. I don't want to be around it. I want to go where I feel like the best place for me to win is. And like, that's all I care about. And I know I can take my daughter with me, and you know, I would love to be able to take my wife with me, but of course she's dragging her feet. But I think it's just a matter of time. Like,
it is a bummer, the whole thing, because we were only there for, I think, 6 weeks, maybe 7 total if you count the one we came first. And we made some pretty good friends. You know, we made some guys that I feel like we'd be friends with for a long time. And it's like you were talking about, people went to Colorado, people went to Florida, people went to 2 different Glory gyms.
Yep.
People, like, instead of going
some
to
are
one
staying
area,
at the one.
Yeah, people have kind of gone everywhere. And that's why I even reached out to James and I was like, hey, just a heads up, a couple of guys are talking about coming down here, and Austin is talking about coming down here. I didn't want you to think whatever. He goes, no. You know, I respect you. Perfect. You know, no problem. And thanks for the heads up. And I was like, if you happen to get back in business, you know, by all means, they're free to come back.
And that's the thing with James, is like, that's all it really takes. But you know, so many people are scared to say something or talk to somebody, so then they just beat around the bush or don't do it. Well, then you kind of look like a fucking weasel. But I guarantee you James appreciates that. And I straight up asked him, I was like, hey, man, what do I do? Like, I literally just bought a house in Kansas City, like, dumped most of my savings into a house. Like, I don't know what to do. And it was easy for him. He didn't hesitate. He said, this is where you need to be. So, like, it's a really easy transition for me.
And he told Austin the same. He told Austin, go there. That'd be great. It's unfortunate because there are guys like you just done it. Miles, I don't know how long Miles has been there, but Miles literally just moved from Texas to Missouri, bought a house, and now he's stuck.
Yeah, Dakota Bush had his kid out there. Like it's
a tough situation.
It does, but the good thing is there's places where guys can go train, and everybody's making their own way. But you can't really be upset with anybody for the decisions that they make at this point. Like we had no choice. The UFC literally told us you cannot train at this gym if you want to fight in the UFC.
Yeah, no one told me the number, but when I sat one day and counted, I believe James had at one point 22 people in the UFC.
In the room.
Yeah, so that's 22 people that for sure have to find somewhere else to train. There's 50 guys there, so the other 30, 28, whatever, can or cannot stay, but their benefit of being in that room is those 22 guys in the UFC. So it's very difficult, but 22 guys got put out to find somewhere else to go. So
when you'd love to be like, oh, let's just all stick together and all train together, but the thing is like, I've done that before where fighters were trying to take care of fighters, and it doesn't work for me. Like it doesn't. I'm a soldier. I need a general. Like not a general that's like, oh, maybe go over there. I need motherfucker go here, do this, eat this. Like I crave that. I do better in those situations, and it's it's going to be harder for Zach Cummings and those guys because we're friends. We've been together a long time. He's going to have, just like it would be hard for me to say, hey, motherfucker, I need you to do this.
Right.
Like I wouldn't be able to do it. And I'm not saying that those guys can't do it. I just didn't even want to have to put them in that kind of position. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And like you said, the room, and for us, the room was a draw, but in reality, the big draw in that room was James, right? James was the reason most of the people went there.
Nobody moved to Kansas City for the weather. Like it's
right.
Like
and so it's everyone else now trying to do his job. There are a couple guys that I don't think can. Those are big shoes to fill.
Well, there's only one James Krause,
right?
And like, I'm not looking for another James Krause, but I still trust what he says and thinks, and he told me straight up, and then now here we are. Like it was a 7-hour drive. It was easy.
And I feel like me and you vibe. You and Luke obviously vibe, and the rest of the guys on the team, and then all of us with Austin. It's been a very cool first few weeks for sure. Yeah. And now other guys, even other UFC guys from another gym, are now coming here, and it's just kind of.
Well, and I got guys messaging me left and right, good guys, like, hey, I want to come up there and train with you. And like in my head, I was like, yeah, we could use the bodies. But then selfishly, I'm like, I don't fucking need them. I got a good coach. I don't need 10 training partners.
Yeah.
Lucas is as much training partner as I need. Maybe if I was fighting a 5'2" guy, I could bring in a short guy. But other than that, I don't need 50. It's better for me. I got bad knees. I have 50 guys in here falling on me. Is like,
right.
I don't. That issue's not here. We got 10, 12 good, solid guys here every day.
Yeah.
And like, it'll get bigger.
Oh yeah.
But the thing I didn't like about Kansas City was, if you had the criteria, anybody could come. All you got to do is come and pay.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want everybody just to be able to, I want.
Well, that's
when you
why
have something special, you don't just let every motherfucker in your gym. You don't let snakes in.
That's why I messaged you and I was like, hey, you're the first one here. So at any point, if you don't want someone here, they're not here. And I would like to. A big room like that was great, but I would love to have 20. And not let. Someone's gonna have to leave before someone else comes.
I mean, a cap will help with that. Like,
yeah.
And James could do it. Like, I don't know how, but how he could go every weekend and be on his phone all the time. Like, that's a level coach, dude. I would be 600 pounds and have no hair. Like, that's
why people accused him of being on drugs, even though he wasn't on drugs. He was so stressed because obviously had even more than we knew going on, but like he was so busy. He was constantly posting a video of him driving home from the airport at 3:00 in the morning, only to get on a plane the next day to go somewhere else.
I just feel like a lazy motherfucker. Seeing that guy, I'm like, God, I'm just a lazy motherfucker. Like,
awesome. Well, Tim, it was awesome having you on here. Let's talk again in 3 fights.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Cool. Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It is all over, just like that.